was a time when the financial world marveled at the genius of Charles Ponzi, the man who was in charge of one of the most successful business investments in America. He had millions of dollars at his disposal and crowds of people lining up, literally begging him to take their money. Little did everyone know that Ponzi's business was built on nothing but lies. The whole thing was an outrageous scam, one which turned Ponzi into a very rich man but ruined the lives of thousands of innocent people. Ponzi's deception was so shocking and infamous that even now, 100 years later, the scam still shares his name, the Ponzi scheme. This video is the untold truth of the man behind the scam and how to make millions of dollars with nothing but lies.
Today I'm going to be breaking down the highly sought after Magnates media style. But first, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. This video is going to be broken down into 3 different parts. The first part is going to be how to use AI to generate photos, what programs to use, and how to find stock footage for free. The second part is going to be how to use the 3D camera in Davinci Resolve. Lastly, I'm going to break down how you can actually put it all together in Davinci and show you how to use all the different nodes and structure them properly to create a masterpiece. So in this part, I'm going to be breaking down the different AI softwares that you can use. Just to name off a few more popular ones, we got DALL-E, we got Leonardo, but we're going to bring it on home today, and I'm going to show you my favorite AI software that's not actually included on this list. It's completely free, up to 500 images per day, and gives some pretty incredible images. That's going to be playgroundai.com. So once you come to this website, you can log in, and then you got a couple different options. You can either use a board, and then you're going to also have the option for Canvas, which I've been using a lot more recently, where you can just kind of move around the screen. It's a lot more interactive, and you can tweak different things with different tools up here. So I find this one very nice. We're going to be using this one today. I'm going to show you how to use it. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to actually come up here to this button, generate. It's going to pop up with this text prompt guy right here, and then you simply type in whatever you want to see. And for this, we're going to use a safe with money popping out of it and also stacks of money on the side. You're going to hit generate, and it's going to be just as easy as that. You just got to wait like 30 seconds to a couple minutes depending on how detailed your photos are, how many you got. And yeah, this is where you're going to spend a good majority of your time, I believe, when creating these videos, because sometimes AI can just have problems with creating like faces and fingers and different things. So it might take a little bit of tweaking and playing around with the different filters listed over here in order to get the appropriate image that you're looking for. Once you have an image that you actually want to use, if we just want to use this one, let's say, you can click on it. You can come over here to download. That'll pop up in your download section. So then once you got it here, you can just drag it into Davinci like you would with any other file, and you're good to go. So let's jump into the next part. This one's going to be important. It's going to be how to use the 3D camera within Davinci Resolve. Once you guys are in Davinci, just go ahead and grab a Fusion comp. We're going to jump into the Fusion page. This is where all the 3D action happens. So once you're in here, just grab your picture of the safe. I actually already masked out mine using the Magic Mask tool in Davinci Resolve Studio. If you guys don't have the Studio version, you can use a tool online called Runway ML. It uses AI the same way that Magic Mask does to mask out an image quickly. It's free. So now that you got that addressed, I'm going to actually break down how to actually use 3D. So we're going to go ahead and grab a background. Next thing that we're going to grab is a image plane 3D. What this node is going to do is it's actually going to allow you to connect a 2D image to it in order to bring it into 3D space. So if I bring these both up on the viewer, we have an image plane for the background, image plane for the safe, And you can now see that we're in 3D space. You can move around with the middle mouse button and hold Alt. You can rotate around the object. You can see that it's completely 3D. So once you have that, I'm going to actually rename our safe because it's going to get real confusing real quickly in here with all the images we're throwing in. So just rename it safe and let's get started. So now that we got this image plane 3D, I'd love to say that you could just connect it to the media out and it'd be good to go, easy, just like that. But it does involve a few more steps that we got to jump into. So the next thing that you're going to want to do, since we have multiple images, is grab a merge 3D, which is basically just going to be like your normal merge, except with an infinite amount of inputs. So basically a multi-merge. Once you have your merge, we're going to need a few more things. So we're going to need a camera in order to get all those nice movements and effects on the screen. We're going to connect that to our merge. The next node that we're going to bring in here is the renderer 3D. Once you got that, this is just going to be a connector between the merge and the media out. And now that we got that covered, we actually have a couple different problems in here that you can't exactly see because we don't have them on screen. So if we bring up the merge 3D, you're going to go ahead and see your first problem, which is the overlap of the two images, the background and the safe. And the second problem is going to be that if you bring up the media out in the viewer, you're not going to have anything on screen. So both the fixes for both these two things are going to be quite similar. So what we're going to do to fix this first one is we're actually going to jump in here and we just need to move the Z axis on this background here to get it off this safe. So we got a couple different ways that we can do this. We can either come into the merge and select whatever we want to move. So our background, and play around with this blue input to move it back or forward, to move it back or forward, back in this case. Or we can actually come into the image plane itself, go into the transform tab, and we can play around with the Z dial here. Either way, up to you guys. But the next thing that we're going to want to do is, as you could see before, not so much now, is that our media out wasn't displaying anything. Right now it has the background in it because we just pushed it back, and that's exactly it. The whole problem, the reason that we can't see anything in our media out viewer is because our camera isn't far enough back, which you can see right here on screen as well. If we hold Alt and use our middle mouse, it's like in the safe. So we got a couple options for that. You can either drag it out or do the same thing and just drag it out in here in settings. But now we're actually going to run into a different issue where we don't see the background all throughout if we drag our camera too far. So what you're going to do is you're going to come into this image plane, and all you're going to do is just crank up the size. Now, I usually make it a pretty extraordinary number because then you can just go back essentially as far as you want with the camera. So I'll crank it up to about 100, and then we don't have to worry about anything. We got a black background all throughout. But yeah, looks pretty good. It's in 3D space, and all it really takes to make an image from 2D to 3D once you got the nodes set up is literally just keyframing the camera or different parts of the image plane. So if we come here to frame 0 per se, and we have the camera nice and zoomed up, and then we come to around frame 40, keyframe it again. We can back up the camera some more and just play it for you guys. that's literally it. That's how you get these nice 3D effects that you're seeing in Magnates Media. I mean, of course, there's a bunch of different images. We'll give you the exact breakdown in a sec, but that's it. That's the 3D camera in a nutshell. So this part's pretty much crossed off. If you guys have any questions about this, I know the 3D camera can be pretty confusing, so leave them down below if you got them. And if you're getting value out of this video at this point, if you guys could drop a like and subscribe, I really appreciate that. It helps me get this video out to more of you guys. And let's get on to the final part, part 3. All right, so now that we got all the hard stuff out of the way, we got all the B-roll and everything, which is going to be down in the description, by the way, if you guys don't want to generate it yourself. It's mostly AI generated images, but it'll all be down in the description. The fonts, the B-roll, everything will be down there, so go check it out. So what we're going to do next is we're going to actually make this millions of dollars pop up on the screen. We're going to connect everything together. So what I did here to get this millions of dollars here is I actually grabbed a background node, an image plane, and also a text node. So I connected the background to the image plane to the merge, and text node to the background as a mask. Then we got all caps millions of dollars. And as you can see here, it's kind of overlapping the image, so we just got to push up the Z value on the image plane. So just going to push that up just a little bit for right now. And I'm also going to take off the second keyframe on the camera. We're going to get a little housework things out of the way. I want to rename this media node so that way it's the Magnates media clip, because things might get a little bit busy down here with this merge. So I want to make sure we know that what everything is. So we got the text here, and now what we're going to do is change the font to, I used Berry Bold. I mean, you guys can use whatever you want. This is the one that I chose. And so we'll do Berry Bold, and then we're just going to come up to like the first frame that it kind of like animates on here, just to kind of see the size of it. And now we're going to actually adjust our font to a similar size. And you can't really see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into this background. We're going to change it to 4 corners. I'm going to cheat a little bit. You guys are going to have the color values on the screen, but I'm just going to steal it from this image real quick. So I'm going to bring it through here. I got top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And then we're just going to throw a little soft glow on here. So we got a soft glow. We're going to punch this gain down quite a bit. Just give it a little hit there. Just a little hint of glow. And now what we're going to actually do is we are going to mask out each individual word. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. But for this animation, I found it easiest to just mask out the words. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to bring in a rectangle here. We're going to make some copies of this text. Now, I made this mistake making this tutorial a couple times, so I'm going to actually just copy these, and I'm going to have to just grab new rectangle nodes every time. So we're going to connect these all to the merge. I'm going to disable the bottom 2 for right now, just so we see the top one. Connect this rectangle mask to here. And now we're just going to move it so that way we have millions in the viewer. I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom 2. I'm going to re-enable these, disable the top one. Actually, I'm going to disable this bottom one too. Bring in another rectangle mask. And I'm going to connect it to the, just so we're seeing the of on the screen. Let me make sure nothing's bleeding through. Okay, so just of, last mask, text. All right, now we'll re-enable this bottom one, disable the middle one, and we'll just get millions of dollars. Okay, so now we got all the words in here. I'm going to go ahead and re-enable these two image plane nodes. And now that we got that, we're actually going to change the opacity and animate the way that this text comes up on the screen. So we're just going to come to the first frame that we can't see the text, which is right here. And we're going to keyframe the level on here. We're going to come to the last keyframe where we finally see the text, which is right here. Go back to the first keyframe, change it to 0. Now we're going to go to the first keyframe that we see the of, or that we don't see it, I mean. Keyframe. All right, and then you're going to keyframe it again. And silly me, because actually when I recorded this video last night, I thought there was a problem with what I was doing. And I really just wasn't paying attention to what was going on the screen. They actually all come on the screen at the same time. It's just that they become more or less opaque as we go. So just make sure you have all the keyframes for the different texts here. And so we got that. And you're going to want to come into the spline tab and just kind of start smoothing everything out. I have it on auto smooth, so some of the things that I have in this video are just going to smooth out automatically. But you can come into the spline tab, check all the boxes, hit show only selected tool, and hit Control A and S, and it should smooth everything out like I have it here. So now what we're going to work on next is we got the opacity of the text. We're going to actually do the animation coming up. This is kind of like why we masked everything out. So what we're going to do is, just so we remember for next time, if we ever come into this project, I'm actually not going to do everything on the text node. I'm actually going to put in a transform node. So if you hold shift and space, bring in a transform for all these guys. One more. Now we can actually come to the first keyframe that we don't see it yet again, which is right here. And I kind of already got this number out in my head here. So we're just going to keyframe all the transforms on the center value, and we're going to set the Y position to 0.389. It's not going to be the exact same position, but I think it pretty much gets the point across in this video. So you guys can tweak it to your liking. But we're going to put on 0.389 for all these. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick the point where it becomes totally opaque. And then we're going to bump this back up to 0.5. And we're just going to follow the same thing through for all these. Last keyframe, transform, 0.5 on the Y. Same thing, 0.5. Boom. And then you're going to come into your spline tab. You're going to smooth everything out again. Like I said, everything's pretty much going to be smooth for me. But you just hit Control A and then S to smooth everything out. So then you got something like this. Boom. And actually, we might even Or actually, that should change with the camera movement. So yeah, we should be good. All right, now I'm gonna come back to the camera. We're gonna work on keyframing this real quick. So we're actually going to make it come out with this last transform. We're gonna see where the camera ends up. So it's frame 14 for me. So we'll just push the camera out a little bit. See how it looks. So the text still isn't as far down as I want it to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back here to the first keyframe, and we're just going to bring this down to maybe like 0.2. We're just going to jump down to 0.2 on all these. And maybe this will give us a better result. All right, much better. So let me just make sure these are smoothed out. Hit this little guy. Control A, S. Yep, everything's smooth. And then we are going to actually come down and we're going to work on the next part. So the next part is the money. This is pretty simple. Money hands just come up. So what we're going to do, hop in here to the B-roll. And we're going to come out to money hand. And we're just going to make a bunch of duplicates of this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 money hands. So let's do that. Let's name it first. Money hand. And then we're going to come down here. We're going to do 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just delete that merge. I'm going to scoot these up. And now we're going to connect them to our merge 3D. So I'm going to bring in a bunch of image planes. Connect these to the image planes. And just to make this easier on us, we're just going to connect them one by one. So that way we don't have a bunch of BS just floating up on the screen all at once. So I'm going to come in here, connect our merge, our hands on top of the image. So we're going to use the transform to just kind of pull it off of here. And as you can probably see by now, these images are not going to be perfect. They're all generated with AI. You guys can spend a bit more time playing around with AI, but I spent a couple hours just getting all these images together for you guys. So it does take a bit of time to actually bang some of these videos out just with the AI portion of the video alone. So before I actually start working on the money hands, I'm just going to play around with the camera. We're going to get this bad boy zooming out how it should be. So we'll come in here and we got that. And I'm just going to set another keyframe to about maybe right here on the camera. And we're going to zoom it out. It's maybe something like that for now. Just make our jobs a little bit easier. I'll put on the image plane for the money. And this is way too big right now. So I'm going to bring in a transform node. And we're going to adjust this here. Bring down the size. We're also going to tilt it because the other ones are kind of up and down. So I just want to copy this original transform to all the other nodes once we got it in place. So let's get this first one in place. It comes over to the left side of the screen. Move these image planes over a little bit. bring in another transform. And I'm going to name this one, the first one we did, size. The second one, I'll name area. And hopefully that makes sense later on. So now I'm going to move this one actually over to this side of the screen, kind of like how it is in this image. And I'm going to bump down the size just a little bit and move this down just a touch more. So now we'll actually get one of these bad boys animated in here. So we'll come to the frame where it pops up, which is basically what I had it on. So right here, we're going to keyframe it. And then we're going to go to where it's not, where you can't see it. So right here, keyframe it. And it looks like it gets more opaque as we go, or more alpha, whatever way you want to say it. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to come into the image plane. I'm going to go to materials, and I'm going to set the opacity down to 0 on this frame. Go to where it pops up on the screen, keyframe the opacity, bump it up, and now we just got to put down, we got to drag this off the screen. So I'm going to just put it on 0. Let's see how this looks. So there's a little bit more movement in ours. And you can kind of come in here and tweak it, but for the sake of speed in this video, we're just going to leave it at what it's at. We're going to smooth it out. So we're going to come in here, go to our spline, make sure show only selected tool is on. If you don't have that already, select what you need. Control A, S. Boom. Should be a little bit smoother. All right, so we got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the next hand. We're going to do the same thing. Hands facing the same direction. I'm going to actually just copy this size one to all of them. So Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. We'll just move this out a little bit further. Same thing with this area one. Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. And now that we got the area here, we are going to enable our second one. We're going to come to the keyframe where we first start to see it again. Or don't see it, I mean. We're going to keyframe that. We're going to uncheck the first keyframe on here. So now we got this one. And we're going to do the same thing with the opacity that we did in the other one. So keyframe the opacity here. Come to where the second one is fully up on the screen, which is right about here. Keyframe it on area. Keyframe it on the image plane for opacity. Bump this down to 0. First keyframe. And then we are going to completely take it off the screen like we did before. So put it on 0. And so now we should have something like this. But our image is still on top of each other because we never changed the X value. So I actually have to come in here and first off, we're going to move this a bit further in Z space. So it's got to be further than 0.62 right now. So we will come to a keyframe where we can see it. Oh, and I completely forgot to connect it to our merge. That's why we can't even see it right now. I'm just wondering. Okay, so now we got it connected to our merge. Make sure you change the Z value. I'm going to come in here to the area, and I'm just going to take off this first keyframe because we keyframed the wrong thing apparently, and this first one needs to be 0. Second one, we're going to move it across the screen. We're going to copy this X value. We're going to copy it to the first keyframe. So now you should have something like this. Cool. So looks pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to smooth these as we go. So bring up the spline tab, Control A, S, all smooth. We'll work on the third one now. So we're going to copy the Z value. Come in here, Z value. So this one's a little bit more over than that first value. So I'm just going to come up to the very first keyframe that we can get for it. So last keyframe apparently. Last keyframe. We'll get rid of all these other ones on here. Then we'll come up to where we start seeing it. So right here is where it's about to start coming up on the screen. So you know the drill. We're going to put this on 0. And then we are going to just shift this over a touch. So maybe we'll do something like that. And then we got to do the same thing for the beginning. We'll come back to the last keyframe and we'll adjust the opacity here. First keyframe, opacity, 0. And now what I'm actually going to start doing is I'm actually going to come back into the image plane and I'm just going to shift the Z value here so that way it looks pretty similar to what we kind of got on the other screen. So I'm just going to tweak the X values on here and Y values from here for right now. So that looks pretty good. I'll come in here, smooth it all out. And now I can show you what we got. So the only thing I might do is change the opacity on this one, just so it doesn't come in and kind of steal all the fun here. So I'll come to the first keyframe that it appears. And honestly, even if it came in right here, it's totally fine. All right, so it is this one. Just wanted to make sure. We'll go ahead and bump down the opacity right here to 0. And we'll come into the spline tab of that guy. Smooth it out. All right, cool. So now we're on to the next little bit. So for this next part, we are actually going to jump into handing money. We got this guy right here. I'm just going to rename it handing money. So we're going to bring in an image plane. I forgot to do that. Neglected to. And we're going to connect that to our merge. And now we are going to just come back. I suppose we can probably just shift the camera out all the way to where we kind of want at the final keyframes of this. So maybe we'll do something like that. Final part of the video. Yep. I can come back. And now it might be a bit more smooth and ready for us. So we got the handing money. It's these two hands. One's dropping a coin in the hand right there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring this back on the Z. See, it's a little too forward, but we need it behind everything. So we're just going to have to tweak the size. So I'm going to bring in a transform node. And we're going to bring down the size of this thing. And I'm going to leave it exactly like it is because I kind of like the way that it's kind of angled right now. I just might move it over a touch. Yeah. We'll move it over and we'll move it down a little bit if we can. All right, so that's pretty good. That's in position. Got a bunch of dollar bills on the screen that you can see. We're going to just zoom through this. So we're going to, well, we don't have anything to keyframe. So we will just make sure that that comes up appropriately. We might even, we're going to have to push it out more. This is the way we did our camera. So systematically, we're just going to keep essentially putting images in the 3D space in here to just kind of go along the same similar flow that we're doing here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the man in a blue suit. I'm going to grab this image plane, make our life easier. I'm going to connect this. I'm going to steal the transform node. I'm going to connect the image plane to our merge. Come up here. So as you can see that this guy's raising his right hand, this guy's raising his left. Sometimes AI has a hard time generating the images properly. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to come into the transform node, and we're just going to flip it right here. So now it looks like he's raising his right hand. So now we'll come back here, and we'll just tweak it like we got here. We'll come into the transform, bring his size down. So it's being a little finicky with me, but something like that. And then we're going to have the woman right directly behind him raising her hand. So, guy holding his hand up. So, the next part is going to be the woman raising her hand. So, we got this lady right here, and we'll just name this real quick. Woman raising hand. Same thing. Transform, image plane. For these kinds of videos, it's super repetitive work. So we just got to come in here, basically connect everything, bring everything back onto the viewer. I was looking at something else real quick. And now we're going to come back and we're going to bring this lady back. Oh, whoops, that's the guy. Undo that. Bring this lady back on the Y axis, or Z axis, I mean. Bring her a little bit over. Maybe even scale her up a little bit. So then we got her behind him raising her hand. And then we can work on this money fist. So I'm going to copy these two, bring them down, come over to our scrunching money. Just going to name it Money Fist. And now we will connect this to our merge. We're going to bring this back further than the other one. Tweak the X. Tweak the Y value a little bit. Whoops. And we're pretty much done. We just got to assemble the teacher here. So we'll throw him in real quick. So let's grab the teacher holding his arms out to the side. So we'll just put teacher. Grab a transform for him. Or actually the same one. Transform an image plane. Copy. So just make sure your teacher is behind whatever the money fist was. So we'll just move him a little bit. And we're still not seeing him for some reason. Oh, he's not connected. Ladies and gentlemen, false alarm. So we'll just scoot him on over here. And I don't like the way he's sitting on this money, so we're just going to scoot him up a little bit. Bring him down a touch. So that way he's in front of the money hand. Still can do more. All right, now we're going to have the classmates behind him. So I got several classmates here. I got kids sitting, and so I'm going to bring in the left side woman, and I'm going to make 2 copies of this. Going to rename it to left side woman, and this other one to right side woman. Grab the transform and image plane. Same thing for down here. We're going to connect them to the merge. So let me see what's going on here exactly. I'll reset this, and we can start to see them a little bit. So I'll bring them up, the 2 girls, and this is going to be the left side. So we're going to come into the transform. Oh, and it's been flipped this whole time we've been copying it. So let me see if I can bring them back into the viewer. So we'll just bring them in like that, and we'll do the opposite for down here. So I'm actually going to delete these 2. I'm going to maybe bring them back a little bit further, and then I'm going to copy them. So we'll reattach this to our merge. Come down here. We're just going to flip-flop, and we're going to bring them into view. Something like that. We're just going to throw a bunch of kids in the classroom, so now maybe we'll throw a couple of these guys in here. Copy the image plane. Oh, we got a nice little triangle there, so we got to get them off the other kids. But now we'll name this guy. We'll just call him Buzzcut Kid. And we'll come in here. We'll grab one of these guys. Same thing. Copy, paste. Connect them. Connect them to the merge. Move this guy over. This one's raising his hand. And then we'll just bring in our teenagers that are sitting behind. Connect those to that. Move out the Z-axis on this guy. change their size, bring them down. And then we got the last part, which is going to be the taking the money. So now what we got here is we're going to find the taking money. Copy these nodes, bring them down, connect it to our merge. This one I'm going to tilt, so we're going to change the angle on this bad boy to like horizontal. And then we're just going to crank it up, the size. So we're going to name this guy Taking Money. So at this point, we're going to do the explosion of money in the background. So let me pull this up on the second viewer. And we're going to do this explosion right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick that right underneath the taking money that we just did. So we got our money flying, and this is where the clip is right here. We'll rename this to money flying. We'll grab onto an image plane, stick it right here, connect it to the merge. Now, once we got the money flying, I'm just going to pull it up on the second viewer because I actually want to take a look at it and kind of what's going on here. So now that I got the money flying, I'm just going to go back to the first scene where we first start seeing the money. So right here. So this is the first scene where we see the money. So I'm going to pop in here and I'm going to change the global in and out to 122. And I'm going to change the out section to just all the way down. And now I'm going to go to the very last frame. So the money should look something like this. So I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to see what our Z value is. We're going to copy this over to here. So we got our money starting to appear right there. I'm also going to bring our money into perspective because we want it to look like that on this frame, and it totally does not. So pay attention because the trim kind of got cut off. And so what we're going to do is we're going to scale this money up a little bit. So I'm going to bring in a transform node. And then we're going to bump this up. And we'll just throw a time speed on here. Time speed. And we're just going to tweak this, make it a little bit more, just kind of get it to what you want. So that'll be pretty good. We don't need to get this ultra specific. You can make it so that way it's equivalent to the scene if you want. But this is going to get the job done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring back our money hand right here. our hands. And we're actually going to cut this off at the final scene. So let's come over here. So about this scene right here. So frame 147. So now we can actually re-enable the taking money hands, and now we just have to adjust this to how we want it. So let me get this back on the first viewer real quick. So we're just going to need to bump up the size here, basically, of these two hands. So I know we probably readjusted this, but let's do that. And now we got to add in the text. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab a text node. We're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to grab a background. We're going to grab an image plane. All right, then we'll attach the background to the text. Or we don't even really need that. We can just grab this color. It's pretty basic. So we'll just grab the text, attach it to the image plane, and then we will bring this up here to our merge. Come back down. Type in take their money, and it's actually only uppercase T, it looks like, and it's in the font of Blackadder ITC, so another B. So hit B on your keyboard, and let's find Blackadder ITC. There we go. Now we're going to grab onto the color of this. So grab that. We're going to bring this image plane back. So let's see what this one's at. 374. Copy paste. And then we'll bump it up a little bit. Change the font a little bit more. So for this one, we're just going to add on a glow. And then we just got to tweak it to our liking, how we want it to appear on here. That's a little too bright. Maybe something like that. And yeah, that's pretty good. So now let's just see if there's any added effects with the font. Nope, it just literally comes on the screen. So you can tweak everything and keyframe it to come on at a very specific time, but I think you guys kind of get the idea of what we're doing here. The last couple things that I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make it so that way the safe is black and white like we have there. So I'm going to add in a contrast, brightness and contrast, and I'm just going to bring the saturation all the way down. And we can just play around different things, see if we can get it looking kind of cool. So that looks pretty good. Go ahead and save here. And the last thing we need to do is add in these little scratches. So I'm going to bring down this clip right here. I'm going to attach this onto our safe, but let me just name it real quick. Scratches. And we're going to merge it in here probably after our brightness and contrast, but we'll play around with that in a sec. So we're just going to tweak this, and we're going to put it on either screen, or you can put it on overlay. Where is it? Overlay. Just whatever whatever your effect that you're really going for, you can do there. I'm going to use screen. It's going to put it on that safe right there. And you can even scale it up if you want to with like a transform node. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it how it is. But then you kind of get the finished product like this. If we just go into the spline tab and smooth everything out real quick. Let me see. Select everything. Make sure everything's smoothed out. All right, I think that's everything. I just got to do Control A and S. Everything should be smooth now. And now we got something like this. So as you can see here, it came out pretty good. Obviously, we're using different images generated by AI, but I also have a glow here on the hands, like we kind of did with the text here. If you want that, you can just come down to the taking money picture and pop a glow node right in here. Um, but it looks pretty good without it. And also, there's a bit of motion blur in here um, on these different things. So if you actually come up here and go down to where the money hands are, or not even specifically the money hands, but any transform node that we worked with, and come over to motion blur, you can just add that on right there. I would do this, but I think my computer might explode if I tried to render this out real quick for you guys. So just make sure you guys pop that on there. I always forget to add motion blur. So make sure you guys don't forget to kind of just jump into any of the transform nodes or anything on here that might have it. I guess you can just jump into the renderer and pop it on there. So that's going to be how you guys create this Magnates media style video. I hope you guys got something out of this and you're able to recreate something with the 3D camera and AI. If you guys got some value out of this, please drop a like and subscribe. I'm on a mission to try and get to 1,000 subscribers. I don't know. Maybe I'll do something cool when I hit 1K. But other than that, make sure you guys drop a comment down below of what you guys want to see more of in my next video. What tutorial do you guys want to see next? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.